we're here. Episode 6. So I'm a little bit ill today. I've got the flu. I literally went out for the first time in months. Had one late night and yeah, just woke up yesterday and I had the flu. I'm a bit sniffly today. But I thought, while I'm just sat here chilling on the sofa, why not just chat and share my thoughts? Because I've got a really juicy one today. I was talking to my housemate, Kira, about my goddess identity and how that came about and how it's completely changed how I feel every single day, how much pleasure I'm allowed to access in my life, and how I'm experiencing building my empire in this new identity. So it's really interesting, right? So I want to tell a bit of a story of like how my goddess identity came to be. And honestly, it just shows the power of having a conversation at the right time, in the right place, with a random person. So I was walking my dogs and yeah, I was walking my dogs and this woman, we were all in a group actually. This girl just comes out of nowhere and just starts like we just bump into her and start having a conversation with her. And she is literally like so I want to say like crazy in the best way. She's just saying all this stuff like so chaotically spitting bars, and I'm like, wow, like all these things that are coming out of her mouth, like what the hell right now? Who is this bitch? Like she was literally talking about, her being a goddess. And she goes, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, people ask me what I do, and I say I don't do anything, I'm a goddess. And then she proceeded to just like talk more. And I was like, hang on a second. You know, when a sentence just clings onto you and you're like, what? Like, she had no shame in admitting that she doesn't do very much. And, I've been stepping out of my superwoman identity, which is the opposite of goddess, by the way, for like years. Like, when I rewind back to when I was living in London and I was like, so even though I was working for myself, it was just hustle culture to the max. Like my eyes were like glued open. I couldn't sleep at night. I had chronic back pain, chronic neck pain. I had OCD. Like that chasing and hustle mentality of like just needing to prove how productive I could be. That's how I see it now anyway. I didn't know that was the case at the time. It was ruining my body, and it's been years of undoing that. And this conversation just shifted things massively for me because this woman labeled her lack of productivity as a goddess identity. For me, I had grown up learning that the superwoman identity, the woman who can achieve as much as possible, is in this like highly respected job title, is also, keeping a house really clean and cooking and raising a family and like just doing a million things. That's what in my mind or encoded into my body was a safe identity, a desirable identity to be living. And in this conversation, this woman literally just completely shattered that for me because I had coded in my body that lack of productivity is shameful. If you're not earning your place in this world, who are you? Like you've got nothing to show for your existence. And so in that moment, honestly, it was like, wow, a celebration of a woman who is just in her pleasure, in her relaxation, in her enjoyment, in her slowness. And I'll never forget, she said, I'm a goddess. I don't do anything. I get paid to exist. And that spoke so loud to me. I was like, wow, you know what? There is nothing shameful about having a slow life, about not needing to prove that you have a right to be here. And, I used to get such a kick out of doing a million things. Like, I enjoyed ticking things off the list more than I actually enjoyed doing the things on the list. And so it was like this addiction to like how much I can get done in a day, how good I can feel about myself by how much I was churning out and how much I was producing and achieving. That's what would help me sleep at night. Even though at the end of the day, I'd get to the end and I would still feel like I'd be looking for more things to do. Oh my God, I remember this so well. I'd get to the end of my list and that would never be enough. It'd be like, well, I still have another hour. Like, what else could I do with my time? Surely there's other things that need to get done. So then I would dig and I would look around the house and I'd be like, right, this needs sorting, this needs sorting. And it was almost this thing of like, I'm not worthy of relaxation. I'm not worthy of receiving what I have achieved or celebrating myself for doing the things I needed to do that day. But I am going to be, I'm going to be um, sniffling and blowing my nose during this because I do have a cold. But I'm loving myself in all the messiness, remember? Yes. Raw, real, messy, alive. This is real life. Okay, cool. So, yeah, like, you know, I've really developed names for these identities because I think it's super important to really understand where you're or label these identities because it just helps to understand like how it feels to be in each one and notice when you're going into an identity that isn't actually helpful for you or your expansion or healthy as well. Because I remember when I was having therapy, I had to have CBT therapy for my OCD, and that actually started because I went to the physio. This is when I was living in London. And I went to the physio with chronic neck pain, and he literally said to me, "You're thinking too much." And I was like, "I'm thinking too much." He was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What do you mean?" I'd never remembered a life when I wasn't thinking that much. And I don't think it's just thinking, I think it's also the frequency that I was in of pressure and running, chasing, proving, you know. But at that time, I didn't know anything about that stuff. So I was like, right, okay, I need to think less. And I was like, but how does one do that? Especially there's, like my whole life, I've been someone who thinks a lot and gets stuck in my head quite a lot. So yeah, he actually suggested CBT therapy. And in my CBT, we ended up talking a lot about control. And so OCD was like the main thing. And it was actually to do with the stress that I was feeling, making me need to control everything. So, what we put it down to at the time was I feel like everything's out of control in my work. So then I try and control my surroundings. And I was awful to live with. Like my sister, she was my housemate at the moment, and she really felt it because I would come home and I would take one look at the living room and I would see if a cushion was out of place. And it would be her fault, of course, because I wouldn't, I was so particular about how things looked. I just needed everything to be perfect for me to feel safe. And it really, this is why I call it the superwoman identity, because I needed to feel like people on the outside would be like, how does she do it all? She runs a business. Well, at the time I was running three businesses, actually. She runs three businesses. She always has time to like host people and cook for them. She keeps the house really clean and tidy. Like I was chasing this superwoman identity because I felt like that was the only way I would be worthy. And it was coded in my body. Like this was something that was running as a program in my subconscious and in my embodiment too, which is why I was scattered, which is why I was all over the place, which is why I was glued to my laptop and in a rush all the time because it was like, how much can I do in one day? When you are valuing yourself on how much you can do in a day, you do not have time to be slow. Everything is a fucking rush and you're never present in anything that you're doing. You're always thinking, how quickly can I do this? Um, which is hustle culture. And I used to think like, yeah, I have this excitement about getting all these things done. But what I realize now is that I don't love doing things like that, getting a million things done. What I was running away from was actually feeling the shame for not feeling productive enough. And that's what was actually running my life. That's what was driving me, not purpose or pleasure or leadership or fun or exploration. Now, how good do those things sound? What was actually driving me at that in those times and in that superwoman identity was that I just didn't want to feel not good enough. The only way I felt good about myself was when I was constantly reaching and ticking off and as many things as possible on the list, but it was never enough. Whatever I got to by the end of the day, it was never enough. And then this also really carried into like my job title and the shame that I felt around that because people would ask me like, what do you do? And I moved from scientist to nutritionist to coach. And every time I made that transition, I was carrying shame because I didn't feel that nutritionist or coach was a respectable job title because I'd learned that the only respectable job titles are like lawyer, broker, what else is it? Like engineer, doctor, this is really deeply rooted in the Arab culture, and in many cultures actually. But that's what I grew up believing. And so I felt a lot of shame around the fact that I was a coach, or I am a coach. And it was really based on like, yeah, a lot of it was to do with the fact that like, people who don't understand it or people who are still living in that mentality would be like, well, what do you actually do? Like, that's not a real job. Like, okay, so you create content and like coach people. Like, that's not impressive, And so, yeah, I really realized about myself when I look back is that I thought being impressive was the way that I was going to earn love. Um, yeah, which is really sad, really sad. I think there's a lot of women out there who feel that way and maybe not even realize that they do. Um, and what's really iconic about this woman who brought the goddess identity into my life and has literally changed everything from one conversation with me is, I said to her, oh, I've always put on a pedestal people who have these like highly respectable jobs. And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, no, like, I feel really sorry for those people. They've literally sold their time and their energy and yeah, they're so burnt out, they're stressed, like they're in this rat race reality, and I was like, fuck, I really have never perceived it that way. I've always put them on a pedestal and felt that they're better than me because that's what I always learned growing up. Like my dad would ask me why I didn't get an A if I got a B. It was always like, okay, well, why are you not better? Um, and I was taught that things like art and drama and anything creative was like literally a waste of time. Waste of time. So yeah, I think this goes back like a few generations, like this is also rooted in patriarchy. So I don't blame my parents, but like this is what they learned from their parents too. And it's really a cultural thing and a patriarchal thing as well. Yeah. But anyway, it's really changed my perception of like how I want to live my life. Do I want to be superwoman? No. Is that what I thought I wanted? Because people wanted that for me? Yeah. But what I have been realizing over the past few years is that I'm redefining what success means to me. And I don't want the definition of success that has been handed to me, and I'm deciding that success means something different. And I don't want to earn my right to be here anymore. I want to inherently know my worth before I've achieved anything. And this is where the goddess identity has really anchored in for me because instead of seeing relaxation, slowness, enjoyment, pleasure, leadership, um, purpose as the last thing on my list, or not even the last thing, as like something that's like not important or sh even shameful. Like if you relax too much, you're not doing enough, or yeah, just like that guilt. I refuse to see it that way anymore. And the way that I want to experience my life is celebrate. I want to celebrate relaxation, pleasure, enjoyment, slowness, and live and create a business that's purpose and pleasure led. And what's interesting is when I told one of like an old friend, I was like on the phone to him, I was saying, yeah, I've just realized I'm a fucking goddess and I get paid to exist. And I have no shame around that. And when I said that, he goes, well, what makes you a goddess over everyone else? And I was like, no, it's not a hierarchical thing. I'm a woman. I'm inherently a goddess. But it's just about deciding whether you're wanting to tap into that identity and that frequency because it exists within every woman. But not every woman is going to claim it. I'm claiming it. And I'm starting a movement of women claiming it too. Women who are leading with sovereignty, with pleasure, with purpose first, like sovereignty over approval, leading from your own center, not from what other people need you to be, like literally reclaiming like what that means for you, what you want to lead, who you want to lead, and in what way you want to lead. No more superwoman identity of just getting a million things done. Pleasure as intelligence as well. Like we have been so shamed around pleasure. I'm just like, part of me gets really fucking angry about this because it's like our birthright is pleasure. Pleasure is the most insane thing that we have access to in the body. And we've just been taught that there's something fucking wrong with it. It also puts us into such a high frequency. We're not as controllable when we're in pleasure. And I want to reclaim pleasure as intelligence. Like what feels good is information. And using also your body as a compass rather than an obstacle. And even deeper than that, like your body is an oracle. If you are a woman, you have a womb, your body is an oracle. The womb is the bridge between the spirit and the human. We literally create life. We bring new spirits into the world as humans. And so we're the bridge. Okay, just blow my nose 1 sec. Oh, right. And seeing as our wombs are fucking oracles, how can we not call ourselves goddesses? How can we not feel like fucking goddesses when we are literally creating this whole experience for everyone? Without us, there would be no creation. And that's the innate female, feminine, divine design. So how could you not celebrate that? Oh, and then, the inherent worth and your value is not earned through output or service, which is what we've all been taught. It pre-exists the work. You were already valuable before you came into this earth, before you started producing, before you started your business, before you started anything, you were already inherently worthy. And so it's not about proving your worth. It's about transmuting your unique, worthy fire and leadership through your creations as a woman. It's getting hot in here. And success on my terms, like su success on our terms for me is the movement. Like Yes, we want expansion. Yes, we want more money. Yes, we want success. Like, fuck yes. Like, I'm not saying that I want to give that all up. And I want to be recognized and I want to be celebrated for the work that I do 1,000,000%, but not if it costs me the thing that makes me me. I'm not willing to give up my body, my authenticity, my voice, my pleasure, because I know I deserve all that and the abundance and the success. And I see so much online of people, saying it's unrealistic to expect a business where, less output equals more abundance. Or like, yeah, I see it online where a lot of women are saying like it has to be hard. You have to make sacrifices. Like it is gonna be stressful. And yeah, I get it. I get that life is not easy. There's always ups and downs. But I refuse to sell my body for my success. And I am adamant that I'm going to show the world that you can build an abundant, expansive, insane business without sacrificing your body, your health, your sanity for it and in pursuit of it. Um, so yeah, a few switches that I've made in my life. I'm getting a dead arm. A few switches that I've made in my life since, yeah, really unlocking this goddess identity is, and to be honest, these things are things that would have driven the old version of me like crazy. She'd have been like, "What on earth? You can't do that. That's you crazy." So one, creation first, admin last, which is mental because all my life I've always done admin first. Up until probably around a year ago, maybe less than a year, I was admin always came first, like emails, replying back to messages, um, yeah, anything mundane like admin would come first. And then when I had time for creation, I'd do creation. Whereas now I actually create first. Admin is the last thing that I do in the day. Because one, it just requires less brain power. But two, it doesn't require, like, you don't need to be in your best frequency for admin. And three, creation is just so much more fun. Like, I would rather start the day creating, which is really alien to me, by the way, considering I grew up learning that creativity is a waste of time. So even just stepping into that new identity and changing around my priorities, it's not as easy as it sounds just doing it like this because your body reacts like it's literally allergic to it because it's like, no, like we're not going to survive. It's so programmed to live in this masculine way of working that like when you prioritize creativity, it's like, whoa, it feels really uncomfortable. It feels like you're going to die. Like it literally feels like we're going to be so off track when it's not safe to do this. So that's been, a really huge shift that I've made. Two is slow mornings. I always had this pressure of like waking up early, having a morning routine, exercising in the morning, like starting my day right. And what's been huge that's come with the goddess identity is a slow morning. I did a visualization and I saw my goddess self waking up in her silk pajamas and just lying on the sofa and journaling or like drinking her morning matcha and looking out to the sky. And I realized, no, I actually don't want to start my morning with a cortisol spike. I would rather ease into my day from a place of reflection, pleasure, self-worship, dance, like joy, rather than force and discipline. So I've been doing my workouts in the afternoon and it feels good. But that's also been a challenge because it's like, right, I now have to commit to not doing work on those days past 4 o'clock. Or say, for example, I have a gym session at 4, I'll stop work at 3:30 and then just do an hour of work at like 6, and it's like that old version of me would have been scared to stop that early because it's like the lack of self-trust of like, oh, but if I don't get this done now, will I actually get it done later? Even though, of course, I would because I was that fucking addicted to production. It was almost like I was moving from a place of like no trust and fear. Um, so yeah. And then another thing I've been doing, number 3, is body first, business second. Ooh. When you look back at the old version of me, I used to lose a lot of weight actually when I was like hustling because I wouldn't really eat. Like eating was last on my list and I would like rush through my food and eat while I was working. And so I wasn't really nourishing myself properly. I also would like ignore my body signals. So like if I needed the toilet, I would like wait till the very last minute until I was like bursting and then I'd run to the toilet, pee, and then run back as if I was like in a fucking race. And really I just had like an email to reply to. It's actually crazy when I think about it. Um, but yeah, no, now it's body first, business second. Like my body is my business. Without my body functioning well and being at my best frequency, my business is not going to be functioning at its best. And this is what I've really realized. So, yeah, like for example, today I knew I wanted to film this podcast, but when I sat down to film it, I was like, I'm actually hungry and I don't want to film this podcast hungry because I won't be, when I'm hungry, I'm not my most relaxed self. So even though the part of me that was like, the superwoman voice in my head was like, oh, but you're going to be delayed. You're starting things late in the day, blah, blah, blah. No, my inner feline goddess was like, bitch, please, food comes first. Without body, without my looking after my body, we can't run a fully functioning business, So that's also a switch that I've made. Body first, always. Number 4 is no hustle and no rush. So I actually unsubscribed from rushing last year when I realized like what actually is the point in rushing? We're at Glastonbury Festival and my sister always has this like she makes this makeshift um kind of like a toy with a light on a stick so that our group never loses each other. Anyway, I was like, every time we would walk from stage to stage, because it's like a long walk. Glastonbury's huge. Every time we'd be moving stage, it'd be like trying to rush and keep up with her. And then by the time I got to the next stage, I was like having to fucking regulate myself back to a happy state because it was so stressful rushing between all the crowds trying to keep up with her. And then I just decided, no, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm unsubscribing from rushing because it was just ruining the fun, ruining the experience. And then I started bringing that into every aspect of my life. Like I'm done with rushing. There is actually no rush. Unless someone is dying on a stretcher and we need to rush them to the hospital, there is no rush. Of course, respecting people's time is important, but to be honest, I respect my body more. I'm sorry to say it, but that's the truth. I respect my body more. People can wait. And a lot of people are going to hate me saying this because, yeah, I mean, I've never had a problem with someone making me wait. I can keep myself busy. There's always something I could do while I'm waiting for someone. Unless I'm hungry, I'm not waiting to eat. If someone's late, I'm eating straight away. Anyway, no hustle, no rush. If I feel myself going into that, I'm like, no need. It's literally a made up concept. There is no rush for anything. And then quality over quantity now. As I was saying at the beginning, I was obsessed with ticking a million things off the list, and I'm not doing that anymore. I don't give a fuck how much I get done in a day. I'm over that. I'm so over that. What I give a fuck is how I'm impacting people through my work every day. And if I'm rushing through things, I'm not really transmuting real power, real authenticity, real connection. And the movement that I'm leading deserves that. I'm building a long-term business with real connections, real people, real transformations, real impact. And that doesn't happen overnight. So I'm no longer subscribing to this identity of the more you produce, the more valuable you are. No, thank you. Because it's not about quantity, it's about quality and it's about impact. And when you really can pour in to something you care about from a place of purpose and pleasure and care and service, I'm sorry, but that is when you're going to have the most success. Not just in the numbers, because I've actually made more money since being in my goddess identity, but also in the version of success that actually serves you in pleasure, in presence, in purpose, in impact. Yeah. So who's fucking joining me on this? I mean, it's a fucking no-brainer, isn't it? Like, everyone deserves to be dripping wet in pleasure, in abundance, in aliveness, in turn on. Like, since when did we have to live boring lives? Since when did we have to feel so much pressure and threat? Like, I look back to my old self and I'm like, I was financially abundant, but I was moving like next month I was going to starve, which was not the case, but that's what my body was in survival. My body really felt like if we don't keep going at this pace, we're going to die. But when you look at the facts, there was no reason to be scared. So if you're still operating from your survival identity in your body, it doesn't matter how much money you make or how successful you are or how many things you're achieving or how many boxes you've ticked off your list that day, you will always feel like you're running away from something or you need more or you're in lack, like you're missing something, that you're going to die if you don't continue.
That is not, that's irrespective of your reality. That's an identity that's coded into your body. That's a survival identity that's running your life. And as long as you live in that identity, you will continue to never feel like you're enough. And your body will suffer the consequences of that too. So, yeah, I am really excited because behind the scenes, I'm creating a really special experience for women who have been living this dry, pressure-led life. And they just want to be dripping light and pleasure. Like they just want to create this empire of just like turn on, like aliveness, mm, deliciousness. So this is something that I'm, yeah, creating beneath the surface. And I can't wait to launch it and drop it publicly. It's going to be insane. It's going to be, exactly everything that I've done to go from superwoman identity to goddess, feline goddess, and the version of me now who just, yeah, pleasure over anything else. Pleasure, purpose, power over anything else. Um, if it's if I'm not having the time of my life, I'm not available for it. I'm only available for having the time of my fucking life. And that is goddess energy. So yeah, if you're interested in that, drop me a DM because I'll be doing a little pre-sale introductory offer into that, which will be like literally less than a quarter of the price. So if you want to know about it, um, DM me wet. Also, Inner Fire is in pre-sale right now, 2027. We had the most amazing retreat. It's like 3 weeks ago now. I need to do a podcast episode on that because it was just insane. Um, but yeah, Inner Fire Retreat 2027 is going to be in fucking sane. You don't understand what's coming. Um, your future self will look back and be like, thank fuck. She chose to become me a year ago. So yeah, DM me pre-sale if you want to um find out some information on that. There's an application process to apply. And I love you lots. Reach out, connect with me if you have anything that dropped in that, any thoughts that came up while I was talking. I want to hear it. I want to know all about it. And also, don't forget to rate this podcast. Need to spread this message. We need to create now this army of feline goddesses who are reclaiming their pleasure and their existence through purpose. Okay, love you lots. Bye bye.